Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan. This is Talk Cosmos. And today is in January the 25th. And we're talking about a really potent subject that is about passion and brings passion. It eludes and it to live passionate life is like ambrosia, the ambrosia of life. Yet passion can, depending on your needs and motivations, and your sense of self and other, can transgress. And Ixion, this particular dwarf planet, exemplifies the need to respect boundaries, our relationship agreements. It's right in everybody's world these days. So we're going to do our best to try to translate feelings and experiences and the current moment on the astrological parts, to understand more greatly how this energy is forging to help us in the long run through the thick and the difficult, which it is, can be extremely that way. Okay, onward. Here we go. Ready for Talk Cosmos.
Talk Cosmos engages unique events during the 3rd and 4th weeks of the month, featuring a myriad of new and returning guests. Joining host and founder Sue Rose Minahan, they co-create to explore and contemplate a wide spectrum of potent subjects. Embark on today's topic within our panorama of guests and insights as we welcome the astrologers for this conversation.
Hello, hi, here we are, talking about our raw nature of Ixion. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Stu. Thank you for having me here for this difficult conversation. I really appreciate it.
I am so mutually thankful that I have someone accepting the hard and the narrow and the deep. But I guess we'll wend our way through it. So we'll get right on this. We're talking about Ixion, the dwarf planet, regarding passion. Melissa Elvira Billington from Brisbane, Australia. And you can find her so easily on Substack, and we'll have a little QR code later that you can get directly with that. So also on YouTube at Melissa Elvira Billington. So Melissa, her Substack is Trust the Longer Journey, which really, you think about that, just spells out life. And I think that is very much in relationship with Ixion. It's going to be with us for a while, and we've got to trust that we can make decisions and choices and have that going on. Self-described and self-defined. I love that. And you are healing and a bridge really between the healing and creative to science, because Melissa just finished her university
Masters.
Yes, her master's at the Queensland, Brisbane, University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia, and probably going to work on a PhD. But in the meantime, you're managing editor podcast for Science Right Now.
Yes, just beginning. So that's a direct bridge between creativity and science, which I'm looking forward to.
It's such manifestation. And also an artist of many regards. So do check out some of these performances. So I thank you. And a yoga teacher, which traveled around the world. This is a big part. And an author. I'm skipping over some of this, but you were a co-teacher with Alan Clay, Dwarf Planet University, and wrote several books with him, Hamea and Maki Maki, which we've worked on before. Myself, Talk Cosmos, I'm a consultant reader. Yes, I read. And a writer. Oh boy. So I guess the one thing to mention is I am studying vibrational astrology, besides having worked with the classes at Dwarf Planet, and I do speaking through various groups. And I love mythology and esoteric. And I've studied music a great deal. Let's dive into Ixion. Ixion. Now, in the universe, perhaps you can tell us too, but whatever comes to mind, Amanda, Melissa. That's an M word. No, right. No, it's not. Go ahead. I'll settle down.
So what we're here. Okay, so we want to dive into the mythology. It's difficult.
It is because, first of all, Ixion immediately violated social grace, you could put it, social standards, and they're not just standards. Today we may think of them as very, in that world, thousands of years ago, people had to live by the word of their social conducts, and the bride price was one of them. This is, pre-Greek times, actually, and he just refused to pay for it, and so his father-in-law stole his horses, and Ixion, not having such any kind of emotional morality, as it turns out, had a lot of vengeance and invited him for a celebration and threw him into a fire and killed him. Well, that, besides being morally wrong, it also violated a code of standards called Xenia, where host and guest hospitality was how the world functioned. You could stay the night, get fed, take a bath, sleep, and the next day find out and go on your way. But that's a social customs. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, you referred to that just at the start in terms of that social construct that we don't have a word for. We might call it hospitality, but that the fact that there's a word, I'm assuming Xenia is a Greek word as opposed to Roman. The Romans kind of took off on the Greeks and had their own names for gods and goddesses. So a word for that sacred contract of welcoming somebody who's traveling into your home and taking care of them long enough for them to refuel and then, as you said, head back on their way. So without that societal contract and recognition that the person coming into the home is not going to violate the home and the home is not going to violate the visit, that there's respect on both sides. So I find it significant that when we don't have words for things, we often don't recognize them. We don't know how to talk about them because we don't have words for them. So being able to dig up this word and bring it back into our lexicon, even though we're not speaking Greek, but being able to use the word, there is a way that we can respect one another. Yeah.
Well, isn't that true? And it was through Wikipedia, that particular one, because there's quite a bit. They do have some information. As a result, of course, he was ostracized. However, he also didn't receive the rights that the people would have bestowed upon him in order to alleviate his conscience or try to clear him, which is an interesting idea too, that society realized that if you did a wrong, but he stepped out of any kind of authority that was available. So for 10 years, at least, he wandered, ostracized, outlaw. But then Zeus, who we might think of, as I interpret it, as the spiritual contract, offered him, are you ready? In a sense, I don't know if he said that or thought, but I kind of am thinking, Melissa, that in other words, Spirit says, are you ready? Are you ready to redeem yourself? Can you really make a turnaround? Because we put people in prison for this same reason, not to punish. I'm not for just punishment, but I'm rather for give a chance to really review and return to life on a new foot. Well, he didn't. He wanted to take Juno, the wife, and Zeus, when he found out, did a shape-shifting where he made a cloud, and as a result, I forget what they birthed, but at any rate, he latched, that was the end of it. Ixion's latched to a spinning wheel, burning for eternity. And
Yes. And there was no going back. So, the morality there of when we don't respect those second chances, when we transgress again, there can be no going back. But I also appreciated when you and I were jamming about this, and you were talking about those two instances. The first one was more of a social transgression, and the second one was more of a spiritual. So he transgressed. And how I would understand that is to say that there is no hiding. There is no hiding. Sorry, I'm here in the bush and there are flying creatures around. So, but there's no hiding in the sense of we think we can do wrong, and maybe the justice system is not set up in a way to catch us. Maybe it is. Whether or not anybody catches us, our conscience, our soul level, our spirit level, however you want to word that, cannot be hidden from.
Yeah. And this is so true. Also that because life has a second chance if given the right opportunity and time, there is that possibility, but yet some by totally ignoring, refusing, unwilling to even have any retrospect of trying to shift their focus, their inner self, because it's not just memorizing, I'll be a good boy, you write it 100 times on the wall, but really, truly violating, again, totally not understanding the conducts of relationships and the boundaries between mutual relationships is the final message. So in a sense, you have to I'm thinking of it like pretty literate, like in this lifetime, a person needs to really make 180 about turn, or else it's like you say, there's no hiding. And why do we even? It's interesting that this word means giving a reason for causes in the etiology. Etiology, I think that's how you say it, causation or origination, because surely it understood.
So tell me how this is in relation to Ixion, this?
Well, it says that the word is, it was in pardon me, thank you for that. Someone said that this myth is, in a sense, the poster child for etiology, for giving a reason for what happens. And I guess I jumped, didn't I?
I see. So, well, because that was part of my question for you is, and in general, like this is such a difficult myth, and it doesn't seem to me that we can readily jump from the difficult, from the violence, from the transgression to some kind of transcendence. And in the research that I've looked into, Jeremy Neal and has written a good book on Ixion. Ixion is not about transcendence. He's about consequence that restores relationship. And what came to mind when I read that was that I remember a male saying to me, in the context of Me Too, so transgressions against women, and also genocide, so transgressions against indigenous folk, can't we just, move on? I was like, no, we cannot just move on. There needs to be reparation. There's been centuries of transgression that need reparation. It can't be this false apology or this mouthpiece to acknowledging the land that we're on. That's a start. That's a small little start.
Yeah.
But we need
opening up
direct action.
Yes, to open that up. Melissa, I'm so glad, really, it's perfect time to bring that up, because it to me, and I'll show this, I think right now I can show this for two, as a chart will show, Ixion is at 9 degrees and about to move into 8 degrees at the end of the month here in January.
Capricorn.
Yeah, in Capricorn.
In Capricorn.
That'll show up. But the point is
Yeah.
that the nodes are at 8 degrees also very soon, or toward the middle of next month. That when within a degree, granted, there is an orb, but the fact is that they'll all be at 8 degrees. And because of the eclipse season, it's going to stay at 8 degrees for 2 months. And we will see, not that this is a large part of it, but it's part of the basis of why does this have such significance? Well, partly because Ixion is a powerful player here with this whole lunar 2-month period when it just drills in. And how is that important? To me, recognizing that if we look at this list, not only do we have the lunar New Year coming up on the solar eclipse, but we also have, most importantly, a couple of days after that in February, this eminent Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries. The last one exactly that I found was 4,361 BCE, which is too far to think about before.
A long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Meaning,
hard to conceive of.
Yeah, what kind of consciousness are we talking about? But what I'm getting at is, regardless of what it is, change doesn't happen sometimes unless you hit rock bottom. Like addiction.
As a yoga teacher, I can say definitely that almost nobody came into the yoga studio because they wanted to, move themselves along. People don't make themselves uncomfortable, which is what change requires, until they're really uncomfortable. So they're not going to put themselves into discomfort. So we can see that globally, that everyone's getting more and more uncomfortable, and that's the pool needed for change.
And when you say that too, because I have a map right up there, I'm recognizing that I wonder if anybody, or if we all are recognizing how interconnected we're becoming through the political events happening, largely because of the United States, but not just the United States. You talk about the Middle East, and then of course there's other areas all around the globe that are motivating such choices and actions that we're getting really aligned with. What are they doing and how does that affect us, and et cetera. Meaning, whatever you said is true. Please.
And what comes to my mind when you're saying that is that Ixion is definitely a reckoning with our shadow, right? And so that's what's arising, as
And we need to confront this, because the status quo is less and less a given. Something's got to move, and it isn't just a reaction. It's truly, like you say, making new action to correct what has been wrong. And you could say maybe wrong since 4,361, since the last time it was at 0. We've gone through a whole cycle. It is back at 0 again, but this time 45 minutes instead of 3 minutes. And so it could be that this consciousness change that we have is really bringing in that sacred, which I think Neptune and Saturn are very focused on. But we'll wait and see. That's more.
And also, though, before you change slides there, you had started this with the nodes. So just to touch on that, in terms of our collective evolution, what are we letting go of, the South Node? What's no longer nutritive, Virgo South Node? And what is that collective Piscean higher consciousness level that we need to activate and stand for? If you combine that with the Aries energy of the warrior, the spiritual warrior. Yes. So Ixion in that mix, being involved with the nodal axis. What do you make of that?
I would say that from the seed, if we can really, because we still have until August of the nodes here, and if we can really understand the oneness, the unity despite fragmentation, that does not mean we have to be all the same, but at least identify and embrace and work with the differences that are to see the mutuality inherent.
Absolutely.
Then we can take that seed from it and have identity that recognizes this truth that we're essentially one. We wake up, we have the same needs, the same wants, the same air, the same breath.
Absolutely. And just from like a science perspective, if we were to look out at nature, what we think of as separate from ourselves, which we are nature, but again, we forget that oneness, right? In a wild experience of nature, everything is coexisting. All of these different species, actually different species, are coexisting. We are a very young species, and we would do well to learn from all of those other species in how to coexist, because gender is not a species difference. Race is not a species difference. Religion is not a species difference. Of countries created by humans are not species difference. We are one species. Scientifically proven, we are one species.
Yeah.
And somehow we have not learned well enough from the plants and the animals that surround us all the time, are always teaching us coexistence is the most healthy way to be on this planet.
We're more like plants than anything. We need air, water, and we have to walk on the earth, and plants have to somehow, usually, unless you're algae on the water, but have some recognition of a basis. I absolutely love that. Thank you very much. Before we step into 5 minutes, well, we will have a little break, but we have time, because look at this. This is in a few days.
You want to look at the chart?
I will look at the chart to ground a little bit how this is really working. So we have down here Ixion at 8 degrees Capricorn. It's going to stay in Ixion. It has a long cycle. I don't know how many years, but it's at least 300 and some for its whole cycle. So it's probably, but it's elliptical. So offhand, I'm not sure, but it's going to stay there for many years to come.
And Capricorn is about structures and systems and hierarchies and what holds things together, and trusting the longer journey, right?
So
it's going to take me a long time to get to that mountain peak, but I'm going to go one little hoof at a time. So if we're looking at Ixionic energy of transforming this really difficult energy in our systems, we have a bit of a journey ahead.
Truly we do, especially since the whole premise of it. So I would think that with Varuna, that wants sovereignty, because in this business, so it's in Leo too. Yeah, the little eyeball up there.
The little eyeball.
Yeah.
The eye, the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
We need omniscience. We need that recognition of it all being interconnected to be able to see where everything sits.
Varuna really waited the right time. It didn't push, Varuna. There's a whole mythology about that. And I think we did talk about it back earlier last year, so people can look at it. But it has to do about our sovereignty in the long run. And
medicine. Knowing what's the right medicine. And that
because there were 1,000 different medicines, right? There were 1,000 different medicines, yes, and taking the right one at the right time. Yes.
Your title was so great. Be Your Best Medicine was our last conversation. So I think this plays in directly with Ixion, is how can we, within the chaos, within the transgressions, within overstepping boundaries and needing to clarify assumptions, all of the Ixionic energy realm, how can we be our best medicine? How can we stay attuned to what keeps us healthy and
Because the thing about
go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing about Ixion is that it isn't something that we necessarily do. It can happen to us. And why, in a part, there is part of Ixion that also asks you to be not just your authentic self, but what is passionate in your life that you need to exude and experience and live. And it's easy for passions if we haven't any idea of how it affects the other person, to just ransack over them. And that is not, as you can see, that gets you in trouble. I mean, it's not going to work. So, but what I'm getting at is that we have a current affair here, especially in the United States and over in Afghanistan, for sure, not in Afghanistan, Iran, where the public is vehemently fighting in their defense. And so we have what, maybe there's another side that doesn't see it that way, but there's a definite side that sees it very clearly, that relationship ideas have been exposed irreverently. And I think this shows that
consent.
Yeah, without consent.
This is about consent.
Yeah, and interestingly, the sun is right smack dab opposed that Varuna and in between it. So this is what's happening now, and before, and as a getaway, we have about a minute. If we flash forward just during the next month, which is all this is happening, where both planets, here we have the conjunction. And of course, as of the 26th, Neptune is going to move into Aries. So that's just in a couple of days. That's tomorrow. To think of it. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, but meanwhile, for that conjunction, we have Ixion as a major player. So people, all of us, and this, remember, this is going to go on until April 16th, exactly at 8 degrees, all of these, because of the eclipse season. The nodes they go backwards, they go forwards, and I do true nodes, backwards, forwards. But it's going to be point of Thales is where.
So what does that mean? Like, that means
it means
we have to get this sorted. Like, we're steeping in it. We're running back and over.
It is. We're going to be really working with the karmic past and present of, like you had first said, about Virgo and Pisces, because Virgo does differentiate, and it itemizes and it categorizes and it discerns, but sometimes perhaps on what basis, on what perspective. Maybe we need, not maybe, but the need is greater. I think that was that, did you hear that?
I did.
Oh, I think that's Nate telling us.
To battle.
Yeah, we are. Okay, we'll take a break.
Stand up.
We'll come back. Stand up, sit down. Fight. Oh, dear. Well, that was high school.
Sit down. Listen, we don't need any more puppets.
Oh, we were going to do a moment of silence. Well, that'll come on next time. We'll see you in just a moment or two. Stay tuned. We're in the deep of it. So are we all, and we're going to get through it. Thank you. Be right back. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus, and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established patterns, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
This is psychological astrologer Dr. Laura Todd. Please join me, Michelle Fleming, and Edja Caleb February 21st through the 28th for Evolutionary Training's annual Goddess Awakening Retreat in Playa El Coco, Nicaragua. Enjoy daily yoga, well-being workshops, melt classes, baby sea turtles, and more. To register, go to mythicsky.com.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, February 1st, it's Shelter Rescue Sanctuary and anything that helps our animal friends Sunday. We'll check in with Meow Cat Rescue, Help Animals India, and Beth and Merritt Clifton from animals24-7.org. Plus, we'll find out about all the great classes and events coming up at the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga. Hope you can join us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Alternative Talk 1150. It's good for what ails you. This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA.
Okay, we are back. Well, looking at this, it's where Ixion can actually be working in a flow and a connection. Now, flows and connections can be negative or positive, just depending, but it is an active ingredient. Usually you think of it as a resolution between an opposition, but here we have the nodes. So it's really like, how are we going to form this? So it's a strong player. And with the yod, that's where there's adjustments. It's like here at the sovereignty, and I think for myself, I see it like, how can we correct, as you were saying, with the full actions to make the relationship sacred, because it is that contract, that sacred contract that we have with divinity, with people, with the integrity of life.
And what I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's
what I'm
it.
seeing there, right on what you're saying, is Ixion opposite Jupiter up there in the 11th house in Cancer. So, it's such a great place for Jupiter to be. And to me, that is about an expansion of our contract of care, our contract of care for our planet, which gives us everything. Everything that we possibly need is from our Earth, and within our Earth, within one another, within all beings. So having that opposite Ixion there seems to me quite significant in this configuration.
I love that. Jupiter, if you think of it in mythology, of the sky, and now in Cancer, of the home. So our philosophy, our beliefs, excellent.
And the sacred home.
Yeah, we have questions, and we'll bring these up because it is really respect for this, our personal space where we've overstepped to get to our passion. But let's bring those up, and that you brought up too, the can't hide and the passion, grieving and regret. Maybe you have a couple of words about that before I
do, sure. Passion, of course, I love etymology, the roots of words. So immediately I can feel my passion on this topic, and in the world in general right now, I can feel my passion to stand up for and no longer stand for certain things, but to stand up for care and respect. But passion as a word, interestingly enough, is not that old of a word as far as I can tell etymologically, but it means to endure, to undergo experience. And so it's often associated with the passion of Christ, right? So it's, and that marcation, history is from 1200. So as a word, it's not necessarily that old. As it went forward in time to 1600s to our time, it's more about, feeling passionate, having a drive, moving forward with particular energy. But I'm really intrigued by that, to endure, because these are some times that we're having to endure, to undergo experience in order to know what is our passion. What are we going to stand up for? What are we no longer willing to stand for?
And that passion gives some kind of a joy. It isn't joy like, I'm always, joy is a kinetic fuel that empowers, I think, the passion of something. Well, thank you for all of that. Yeah, and in fact,
just on there, go ahead.
No.
You were going to say?
I forget.
Grieve and regret. We had that on there, and so I think that's part of that reconciliation, the reparations that we can't because one of the working titles of our conversation was No Regrets, right? And I was like,
Oh, yes.
I don't know about that, because I feel like we can't just skip over. We can't transcend. We have to address where the grief is. We have to address where we went wrong and what those regrets are in order to clear the slate.
I think they're like a triad. I've given a lot of thought to that, because I think, perhaps, I hope, that to have passion, if one grieves through regret, it's going through all that you can have your passion. Is that making sense?
And it does make sense. And I feel that as somebody who has cried a lot, and I would hope we all have the capacity and the vulnerability, the willingness to say that we grieve and that we cry. But what I don't see is authentic grief in our culture. I don't see people being willing to, there's a lot of this energy, there's a lot of battling, there's a lot of like standing up bolstered. But what about the vulnerability? What about the grief? There's value in that.
I've wondered about that as the world is, with all the world news and with the horrible things that are going on with Ukraine and Gaza, that we've all been looking at.
And the United States.
Well, I know, and we'll come to that, but I'm just saying what I'm trying to say, that I have been thinking for 3 years, since Ukraine has been in our news for 3 years, and then Gaza for the last, year and a half, or so,
more than 2.
2 years, yeah. But it got resolved, I mean, kind of, but not really. So the point is that I see people being filmed that are deeply in grief, and it's made me realize we don't ever show that so much here in the United States. People feel it, certainly, but it's not the same, and it's not publicly perhaps displayed there, where man, woman, child, whomever it is, can feel deeply. Let's have now that moment of silence that you were going to bring up for the situation in the United States, however it may rest. And go.
Yes. For whomever, anywhere, just a moment of silence.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I love the birds in that. And I know we agreed, and we talked about different timings, but I hope for all that was restitution. Or is restitution the right word? Where you kind of bring back and bring up the reservoir of oneself. Yeah, it's good.
Well, and I think one of the quotes with Ixion that I was looking at was around there being sort of this narcotic curse or this numbness. And so that's maybe why I'm so passionate about the grief, is that we need to feel. There's the danger of getting stuck in that because it's so enormous. It can feel like a tsunami of all of the grief. So I'm not recommending that, but I'm also not recommending avoiding.
Yeah.
Pretending as if things have not happened that have.
Yep.
That do.
We'll talk about that. At this moment, I always bring up again how to contact about ourselves. So Melissa's at the Substack, Melissa Elvira Billington. And tell us briefly about your 12 days of embodied consciousness so that people can perhaps use this energy towards just before, I think, the conjunction, or just during at the very end.
Yeah, so it's going from, it's encompassing some pretty big events in there in terms of the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn in Aries at 0 degrees, but also the Chinese New Year. So I always say, never stop starting. Any opportunity, start again.
An eclipse.
An Aries sun.
The solar eclipse.
And the eclipse is in there as well. So there's a lot in there. I recognize that everyone is going through so much. And so what I have to offer is a lot of provocations and offers and conversations. And the set that we just did in December was so gratifying to me to have those kinds of were involved also seem to gain quite a bit from something as simple as what you and I are doing, which is having a conversation about some of these difficult topics. The 12 days are the 12 signs of the zodiac. So each day is allowing us to dive into that archetype or energy.
They'll be potent. That word comes to mind. I use it a bit, but truly it will be, because thinking of the Aries energy, people need to, people will want, it's important to express and share. This is where Melissa has Trust the Longer Journey, and there's a QR code here, and there'll be also on the next one for her blog. And here you can either look at that now or go back to our recording and capture that.
So if anyone's interested in joining the 12 days, then contact me that way. Yes. Thanks, Sue.
Yes, I hope. Wonderful. It's giving to people. It's back and forth. So next week will be Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees Aries. And I have Stormy Grace joining with Laura Tad and myself. Legacy Transit, which will be exciting. And these are a few others that we did. We just did one last week with Man's Search for Meaning with Viktor Frankl. And of course, here's the one with Melissa and I, Be Your Best Medicine, that we were talking about. And then the Venus Star Point, there's heaps in here. And Laura Tad has a moon journal, which is helpful to, you might be interested in. You can go to Mythic Sky about that. Let's talk about what this means. It's morally murky. We have this 2-month process of transformation to make positive irreverence sacred. It's complicated.
It's complicated. And I think we tend to shy away from complexity. We cling to duality, black and white, good and bad, love and hate, and yet we need to encounter the complexity within ourselves and encounter the Ixion within ourselves, which, yes, there is the potential for transformation because the Plutinos, that threshold, before we go out into the dwarf planets, which is where most of it has been astrologically, but these gatekeepers, I would say, Pluto, Orcus, and Ixion. And I feel like Orcus is really key here as well in terms of keeping our oaths. I've read this imagery of Ixion and Orcus being like the devil and the angel on your shoulders. So how do we listen to the angel and be guided not to act on the devil's ideas and prompts, but to recognize that they are there? We all have Ixion. What does that say in our charts? What is that about?
Yeah, I think partly it is, like, I know that you forwarded a lot of notes, and it's partly and they're good ones. I reviewed. It's partly that entitlement. We all need to be our voice and express it, but inherent is recognition of where it lands with the other person. There's what I do feel like it's a double-edged sword. Somebody will say, "Oh, well, that hurts me." Well, we all have to take care of our own needs. It hurts in a way, but there is still a way of respecting identity, without name calling, or as one example, or killing people. Thank you. There's things like that too. We're still in a war situation on some terms that I can't speak of. As far it's a big. Ideally,
what comes to
not.
My mind is talking, Sue, is nonviolent communication. And so if, listeners have not looked into NVC, nonviolent or compassionate communication, that would be my prompt. Because inherent in that structure or that approach is consent, is asking, would you be willing? Yes. Would you be willing? If the person's not willing, then you don't have consent. Would you be willing to have a conversation about this?
And that's true with fixing. The thing about Virgo, we all have pros and cons, and I can speak. I have plenty of it in myself. I know you do too. And one of the things about Virgo is we can fix. It's capable. It sees where things are in disrepair. And maybe climate is one example with a roof, or maybe a person's clothing or cleaning or whatever it is. But ultimately, to be a healer, one needs to fix where one's been asked to fix, to heal. It's the same idea. Yeah. So to just
first,
enter
do no
in,
harm.
I mean, you can see exactly, do no harm. And
first,
you
do
can
no harm.
see that someone needs help, and then you can ask. You say, I recognize that this might be is this something I can do? Or how would this help? How could I be helpful here? That kind of dialogue.
May I offer some advice as opposed to having advice imposed? I'm a big resistor of having things imposed.
Actually, I'm not even sure I want advice, or rather, can we talk constructively? Exactly. I have some ideas that might be constructive. Could we have that conversation? I would even elaborate it into that, because then that doesn't put one on a higher level than the other. It's more one-to-one. It's like my ideas versus yours, because you never know. Yeah,
Absolutely. But consider how many times people impose their advice on you.
Oh, yeah.
That's my point.
Yes,
I'm not saying you do. But
I think it's very easy.
Make ourselves aware of that.
It's very easy to get pumped up about some idea that you think is great. And it's not even that someone's thinking that they don't see it, that there is this opportunity that they are missing that would just make their life so perfect in your mind. And it comes across as unwanted advice, and it took me a long time to realize that, or for instance, even I remember writing into the Seattle's, I had an idea about energy, and why aren't they using tidal energy to get more energy? Because Ireland did something like this like 40 years ago. I had a little clipping. I saved it. I thought it was so brilliant. Well, of course, there is a lot of trouble because the tides come in irregularly. But still, I was convinced that technology could figure out something. That was their job. If they just had the idea, they could work on it. And what they invited me in was, well, we have a meeting. Would you like to be a board member? Or not a board member, but part of the committee. So what I'm getting is that you can't delegate, and you can't. It's a cooperative. It's give-take relation, experience. Yeah.
Just because this is something that I realized pretty young, but I still struggle with, I still have to be mindful of, is that just because I can see something does not mean the other person is ready or willing to also see it or have me point it out.
Yeah. I like this, what you've brought up about the oath, because I'm hoping that if we're enduring this long extended 2 months tight 8-degree interconnection between all these events that are impacting people in various ways. It's as above, so below, or as above, so below, back and forth. That we're being pummeled in different ways to realize what we've been addicted to as attachments, some ideas, some perspective, some conditioning, this outdated, outmolded, archaic and crumbling and doing detriment. And it's only when you hit rock bottom in some kind of an addiction, and any attachment can be an addiction, and addictions to status quo or relationships of hierarchy versus, I think Ixion in a very crude way is making us stand up to realizing how, with our sovereignty, how can we
have some very Ixionic characters in the world today. And so that is a reflection for us to recognize the Ixion within ourselves. But I just wanted to comment on what you said about rock bottom. My experience with that has been very supported by Buddhist principle of hitting rock bottom is very difficult for the egoic self. And this is, again, where I talk about the Plutino threshold. We have a psychological threshold here to move up and out from, but it's perfect ground. It's exactly the place we need to be for our samsaric self, for the bigger picture, beyond the personality, beyond the, if you want to say this life, but the soul's journey across lifetimes, if you want to look into that in any way. But just to go beyond the ego, rock bottom is very hard. Oh, poor me. But for the
give
bigger,
up that whole
it's the place that we need to
attachment.
be for those attachments. Exactly. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So there is a greater picture of it. Very true. I think there's much that always evolves out of, I'm looking at some notes here, but that evolves out of Ixion, because our passion, we could talk about passion. That would be a great way to sign off in the next, because passions emote emotion, and it's true, one can get so excited. Like we had that moment of calm before we started, and then we also had it during our program, and I felt it just when the good news about that was, as you were just bringing up what you just said, and I thought, a sense of support. But passion lived is key. What would be ingredients for passion? How do we?
Well, I mean, I may not be directly answering your question here, but
Good.
just
That's
kind
okay.
of stepping back to what we were saying about rock bottom and attachments, and that one of the quotes from Jeremy Neal's book is that we must be content to be ordinary, lest we be narcissistic. And narcissism has been a big thing that we've been aware of in recent years, right? And we see it writ bold in the world. So ordinary does not mean that we are not ourselves. Accept ourselves within, like a blade of grass. Imagine one blade of grass being narcissistic. It's part of the whole field. We are part of the whole field of humanity. I am the only one who can be myself. But it's a balance, it's a dance, a dancing, right? It's a verb, because taken too far, it's narcissism or vanity, and not taken far enough, it's another form of vanity, or it's, neglecting one's potential to shine. And to
That's
offer,
true.
to offer from oneself. And I
Because
feel like that's what passion is. We're offering from ourselves, and I can't offer your brilliance. Only you can offer your brilliance.
Yes,
Only you
yeah.
can be passionate about what the mixture, the alchemical, formula that is you.
Yeah, and such as yourself, which is bridging. I love how you phrase it, between science, art, metaphysics, nature. And this is the beauty, is
Healing.
Ixion. We are a duality, we are a combination of nature and humanity, if one can say, and the cosmos of consciousness.
As
I
within,
think-
so without.
Yeah,
As above, so below.
it shall be. We will manage. So without naming is good if we can then bridge and
Wake
reach.
up.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Have
Wake
a
up.
soft
Come out of the numbness. Acknowledge the grief. Connect to the
step
passion.
forward, and empowerment to all of your path of passion. Thank you.
Thank you for joining this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.